rest is resistance. And it was this idea that in moments of like very challenging times, in these dark times that we're in, actually resting is a moment of resistance because you're not succumbing to the chaos of it all, and you're not giving in. Because when you go to those places of yourself where you're so overwhelmed and so broken, like you can't move, you can't take action, then you're not okay. And we need you to be okay so that you can be a part of it. So carve out self-care, try not to do it all, and come and find like a trusted allied organization who can help lead you through some of that work.
One Quick Thing is a podcast for busy people who want to engage more deeply with their local community in times like these where we need it the most. If you're feeling overwhelmed and don't know where to start, join us on this journey as we give you simple ways to get involved. On today's episode, we talk to Mackenzie Nicholson, a mom, advocate, and all-around powerhouse for families in New Hampshire. By day, she's the senior director of Moms Rising New Hampshire, leading grassroots efforts to fight for better childcare, maternal health, and policies that actually support families. She uses TikTok to break down complicated legislative policy in ways that make it easy to understand. Join us as we find out if that whole contacting your reps thing actually works.
So weird.
Only we prioritized like family and
Right.
family health.
Yeah.
And, right.
Or something that 50+% of the population goes through, like having a baby.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Now, you're dealing with this stuff every day. You're dealing with like the actual legal realities of what our families are going through in New Hampshire specifically.
Yeah.
What's the vibe at the State House right now? I feel like I'm seeing stuff all over social media. Like there's a lot of activity. Everybody came in very hot to 2025. Like everyone came in ready to go.
And that's on Don't Mess with Moms.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are tired and we're just like in our robes with no coffee being like, stop doing this to our kids. Yeah, we're tired. Vibes are off at the State House right now.
Yeah.
For context, our legislature is the second largest in the country, only second to Congress. And
That's crazy. Then the U.S. Congress.
U.S.
Then the United
Congress.
States Congress.
New Hampshire comes number 2. Wow. So there's 400 state reps, and they're also not paid, and they're there for 6 months. So that really like sets the bar at who can be there, who can afford to take the time to be there. And it's a full-time job. When session starts in January, they're there a lot, especially like if they're on a committee that's really busy, like education or,
I don't think people realize that, like
Yeah.
that in New Hampshire specifically, it's there. You don't get paid,
Yeah.
and it's who can do that?
It's in our Constitution also. So if you wanted to try to change the law to make it more accessible so families could participate, good luck. Yeah, They make it really hard. So vibes are
Interesting.
off. And I don't know. It's just like everywhere else, it's so divisive right now. It sort of feels like you're either one side or the other, and it doesn't feel like there's a lot of movable middle, and it's either on fire or really good news, which is great, right? But like, I don't know about you all, my anxiety, like we're struggling.
Yeah.
The vibes are off.
There have been some wins this year already, though, right? And then you're heading, and then you also have some stuff that you're. Tell me about what you're feeling sort of more optimistic about heading into the year.
Yeah. So excited. I was saying when I got here, I've never experienced organizing like this before. As someone who's been in the game for a decade now, I haven't seen people taking action like in the numbers above 10s on even like really exciting things ever. So I'm really excited about the amount of people who are paying attention and able to find information finally. I think, if there was one good thing that came from the pandemic, it was that it made our state legislature a little bit more accessible because they had to start. That was when they finally started streaming their hearings on YouTube, like literally just during the pandemic for the very first time. At least, don't quote me on that, but like I'm pretty sure from what I can remember, that's when I started to be able to see it. Actually, I know I'm right. And so because of the pandemic, like that made it more accessible. I'm not sure without it if you would even be able to go online and sign in against a bill right now. I don't know.
Right.
Can you give a little bit of context about the signing in behind bill, the signing in for bills? That this is a new thing that I've never seen before. I don't know if it's new but I'm seeing it all over my social media, and I don't know if it's a New Hampshire specific thing. But can you just give a little bit more context on what we're talking about?
Yeah, I don't know if it's New Hampshire specific either, but I believe it comes from. I believe the reason it exists right now is because of the pandemic. Because when you go to a hearing in person in Concord, you physically walk into a room and there's, just like kind of like a court. There's like someone in the middle and there's like desks all around and you sit at the front with a microphone. And then there's a sheet that you sign in and you tell them whether you support or oppose the bill, and you can tell them whether you want to testify. And that physical piece of paper is like, that's all I think we used to have. And so that's what they would take as public opinion, that simple sheet. And so you Concord,
had to get to Concord
in the winter during the workday, right? Like in the worst weather of the year when people are working. Most people are working, right? Most people have kiddos, whatever. How is that accessible? Yeah. So now we have this online version where you can basically do the same thing. You can even write a testimony. You can say how you feel, and denote if you support or oppose a bill. And now an amazing thing has started happening where moms and people are just, their eyes are open, they're starting to organize. And with, there was a 15-week abortion ban bill in front of the legislature recently, and more than 12,000 people signed in opposed to that bill. And again, it's like, when you start out seeing 10 and then you see 12,000, it feels like, holy moly, that's like kind of crazy, but it worked because they withdrew the bill. They're not even moving on with the process with that bill right now. There's like lots of sticky bits there, but like the TLDR is we killed it.
It's amazing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that is incredible. And I was wondering how that's being received kind of on a larger scale. Is it mostly positive, seeing that there's a lot more interaction, or is there sort of mixed feedback on that?
About people signing in for bills, or just about the abortion ban? Or
no, I would say like the accessibility of signing in onto the bills.
Yeah. It's interesting. You should ask. I think I made a TikTok. I did make a TikTok about this recently where I talked a little bit about my worries for what I'm hearing sort of in the rumor mill, but also I have some direct quotes from folks. When you start to look at them together, you start to wonder if they have doubts about whether people signing in online is real or significant in any way. And that angers me beyond a point that I should share on your podcast because like what I mentioned, right? My career started out with you having to be there in the legislature, and that's incredibly inaccessible, not just for parents, right? But what's that like for people with disabilities, right? Like, and so even getting in the building is hard enough. And so when you start to question whether people taking the like 5 minutes it takes to sign in opposed to a bill or write you a note, it's like, you really don't want to hear public opinion, do you? Or is it just that you want to be able to hide behind something else?
Yeah. It seems like a lot of these bills that are being put forward are like very, very unpopular with the general public. And so I think this is showing that, right? Where people are willing to mobilize and people are willing to participate in this process in a way that hasn't been accessible to them before.
Exactly. That's democracy.
I know. And it's actually kind of exciting to see it in like the last 2 weeks just really pick up speed, not only in like our group chats, but I will open social media and like random people are posting about the New Hampshire education bill that's coming up. Like that one people are posting about that I'm seeing, not even from New Hampshire, like all over the globe, but these very, very fringe politicians are putting the stuff out that people don't want, and people are getting mad.
And it's like, for what? We're spending all of our time doing these wildly unpopular things when families are having really like real struggles, right? Our property taxes are going through the roof right now. I've been living in my home for 5 years and I'm starting to look at my property tax bill and I'm like, for what? I love my town. I love our school, but they're being squeezed so, down to every penny. Our roads aren't plowed well. Like our town isn't doing well. But where are my property taxes going? I'm like, what is this? The math isn't mathing, friend. Make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. But let's go spend all of our time doing these wildly unpopular things
that nobody wants.
And you're not even getting paid to be there. I'm like, what? Are you hourly? No. It's $100 a year, actually. They do get paid.
That doesn't cover gas.
I know.
That doesn't cover
They
parking.
do get mileage. They do get mileage. And they get a fancy license plate that says they're a state rep.
Ooh.
Wow.
So
That's,
just so
you know.
in case you ever want to be one. The
Who needs
Constitution is written so that you can become one. It's supposed to be your neighbors, right? The whole idea behind our legislature, which it's an admirable idea, is that it's supposed to be the people that you know, so that you can go and have conversations, and that so policy change can happen from community.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
In theory.
Right. That's wild.
You're talking about all this unpopular activity that's happening, but there's some popular activity that's happening too. And it sounds like the work that you're doing and a lot of your peers are doing is actually, so tell us a little bit about the Momnibus.
Yeah.
And before, Momnibus 2.0 is what we're working on right now.
Yep.
But can you take a step back from that and actually tell us, I didn't know what omnibus actually meant until recently. I think a lot of people don't know when we talk about a lot of these big words thrown around. Tell us what omnibus means.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I'm a dork, so I live in it. So
that's what you're here for.
That's what I'm here for.
Dork out for us, baby.
Let me open the door to my brain. So omnibus is just a fancy word for like an umbrella of bills, right? It's a bunch of bills under the same thing, kind of packed into one. And so when New Hampshire looked at a package of maternal health bills in 2023, they were all maternal health related, and we thought we were so cute. We said Momnibus, and they were like, yes. And then the national people did Momnibus, and we were like, they stole that from us.
So you coined the Momnibus.
I don't know. I think we did. You heard it here first.
Hot take.
But Momnibus 1 was, again, a package of maternal health initiatives. It helped increase access to health insurance for moms who previously were only covered up until 6 weeks on Medicaid postpartum, when we know that, postpartum issues and all the complications that go with pregnancy, don't usually say, I'm done at 6 weeks. And that postpartum is much longer than that.
You're still bleeding at 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Literally, you don't even know what just happened after 6 weeks. And so Momnibus 1 made it so that those moms were covered until a year. It did a lot of other things, including covering doulas and lactation service providers through Medicaid, which is humongous, and it set the stage for Momnibus 2.0, which I'm really excited to share about, which is really good news, which I don't often get to share, but is, again, another package of maternal health pieces of legislation. And they really focus on maternal mental health, because I don't know about you guys, but everybody that I talk to, including me, is really struggling right now. And, that's not new. Mm-hmm. In New Hampshire, we know that maternal deaths happen largely because of maternal mental health and substance use disorders. And so we're really looking at this package of legislation to address some of those issues. And so it does 8 things. If you want to hear about them, I'm happy to tell you.
I do, actually.
Yes.
You do?
We want to hear all 8.
I'll geek out with you.
Yes.
Okay. So the one of the first things it does is it covers a maternal depression screening at the child's well visit instead of that 6-week OB appointment, because we know that moms need to get screened much sooner. And we know that a lot of times moms put themselves on the back burner. And if they're going to attend, a doctor's visit, it's probably going to be the one for their kiddo. And you probably both remember, the first couple of weeks coming home with a new baby, it's 3 days, 1 week, 1 month, whatever. You're in the pediatrician's office all the time. And so getting moms screened earlier is going to definitely benefit moms. The other thing it does is it creates a perinatal psychiatric consult line, which is basically a fancy way to say an actual telephone line between an OBGYN, for example, and a clinician who specializes in medicine, so that when mom's at the OB or talking to her OBGYN, that person can feel comfortable prescribing medications for mental health. Great. And so,
wow, I want to. So I'm gonna go. So let's say I'm going to my follow-up appointment. Mm-hmm. I'm talking to my OB, and then the OB is able to actually prescribe the antidepressants potentially, or whatever I need to kind of help me get over that hump.
The OBGYN can do that now, but here's the challenge. We actually know of people who have, when they've seen a commercial, for example, for an antidepressant and thought, actually, that sounds like that would work better for me than what I'm on right now. And they go to their OB and say, I'd like to try this medicine. And the OB says, I'm not comfortable prescribing that because I've never prescribed it before. And that's the barrier. That's it. Just that the OB hasn't ever prescribed it. And so if we can reduce that barrier by creating a relationship between someone who knows a lot about that drug and someone who knows the mom, good to go.
That's great.
Wow.
Done.
That's amazing.
Easy. The other thing it does is it trains rural EMS providers in how to deal with pregnant and postpartum women, because they actually don't receive a lot of that training. And we know that while New Hampshire continues to lose labor and delivery units, moms are giving birth on the side of the road, and not having those providers trained in dealing with that is incredibly.
I never even thought about that, but I bet that impacts a lot of the state.
Actually, a colleague of mine just sent me a Boston Globe article about it yesterday.
Really?
About a mom who gave birth to the side of the road, and she was reaching out to the EMS person who helped her, like in a thank you type of way. But yeah, and for moms who live in the North Country, right, when you have like a couple hour drive to a labor and delivery unit, and New Hampshire continues to lose birth centers,
right,
which is another option for moms, right? And we had, I think, 5 a couple of months ago, and now we have 3. So Momnibus 2.0 also looks at how we can reduce regulatory barriers to making sure that independent birth centers can stay and thrive here. Another thing it does is it asks the state to operationalize what perinatal peer support groups would look like. And so that's like a group of moms going through pregnancy and postpartum together in a support group, and it builds community with moms, right? Like, and how
That's
important
amazing.
is that? Sitting on this couch with you feels awesome. Like being in a group of moms who can all share an experience and like grow and thrive together.
Yeah.
That's a great way to support moms.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else does Momnibus 2.0 do? It covers home visiting. Full stop.
Wow.
That's a
Wait,
big
explain
one.
more for our audience who might not know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so some of you may have received a home visitor if you were really lucky. Sometimes, most of the time, insurance doesn't cover it. But a home visitor is someone who comes to your home, helps you with resources for your family, can offer you, breastfeeding support, offer advice about sleeping, things like that, and really is just like a huge support person and incredibly beneficial, like in reducing, maternal mortality. I'm sure that they can help like identify if you're having mental health challenges. Like, they're just another support person, and it's like having a doctor or a nurse come to your house. They can help you with issues if you're struggling with like your baby latching, all that kind of good stuff. It's just another good support person to have. So it's like,
that's amazing. I didn't even know. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all, but I wasn't. I was like,
Yeah.
for our listeners, actually for me, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, because how many people have access to them?
Yeah.
If you don't know about it,
Right.
and you're not covered, or you don't know someone who knows someone.
Yeah, I had never heard of that. That would have been amazing. I mean, I'm sure a ton of people had this experience, but like when I delivered, I like lost a crap load of blood, and I like couldn't, could not move for like getting even just to those pediatrician appointments for my daughter was really, really brutal physically.
Wow.
And I can't imagine being able to have just somebody come to the house
Yes.
and just kind of make sure she's okay and like take a look at her and like whatever that involves. Like that's huge.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting that you should say that, because also moms are going back to work so early after having their babies because of lack of paid leave, which we'll talk about that in another time. Another thing, there's a bill to get rid of our paid leave program, TLDR. But other parts of Momnibus, there's 2 job protection pieces in there. So there's one that makes it so that you have protected time to step away from your job to bring your baby to their visit, to go to a postpartum appointment, which right now there's no job protection for that.
So somebody could theoretically get like their job is not protected to take the time to bring their baby to the pediatrician. Like right after they had a baby.
We're not even asking that they pay them for that time. We're just asking for job protection in this bill. Wow. So we have to start with step 1.
We have to start
somewhere, but here we are closing another gap. And then we're closing another a gap for a small group of people who are on our state's paid leave program, who are between like the federal and the state law, who don't have job protection right now. And we know they're good employers there, but they're just closing a loophole there. So I don't know if that was all 8 things. I'm pretty sure we can go back and count them.
We'll put a link to more info in the show notes and all that.
But so Wednesday night, what's Wednesday night's date? The 12th at 6:30. We're doing an online virtual chit chat. Come hang out with us and learn more about Momnibus, and then learn how you can get involved. So that can be signing in online, or it can be helping provide childcare for someone who wants to go to the State House.
Yeah.
It can be holding your best friend's hand while they testify at the State House. It can be so many things. So come hang out with us on Wednesday night and learn more about it and how you can be one of 12,000 or more people who sign in.
Yes.
But this time in support of a bill. which, like, I know it's easy to get pissed, right? And there's 23,000 people right now who have signed in opposed to that education bill that's going to gut education. Let's also show them that we can step up for the good too. And the good news about Momnibus too is that it's hugely bipartisan because they view it as a pro-family bill, which it is, right? It supports strong families. It supports people going back and staying in the workforce and being able to stay in New Hampshire. Like, who wants to stay without any of this stuff? New Hampshire's #1 export is young people.
Yeah.
For real. For fucking real.
That's crazy.
That is wild.
See you later.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up here and we left for a few years. And I feel like a lot of the people that I grew up with, you know, ended up getting out of town. You know, there's a few of us that grew up in Dover that are back. But for the most part, people kind of went to Massachusetts.
Yes. So many people in my TikTok comments are like, wow, I can't believe New Hampshire's here. Like, that's why I left. And I'm like, we miss you. Just come back. We need you for our tax base, please.
Yeah.
And also our geriatric aging state. But, yeah.
Right.
You know.
It must be so challenging to like fight so hard for these things that feel like common sense. That must weigh on you really hard right now.
Yeah, it does.
That wasn't really a question, just kind of.
No,
check
full
in.
stop. It does. It really,
Yeah.
really does. Yeah, I struggle too, because like when I go back to the question about why we are doing this, I'm like, the people who are sponsoring some of the really crazy bills that we've talked about are also co-sponsors of Momnibus 2.0.
And I think if we, to your point, if we as the general public can show up for that type of bipartisan bill and say, hey, this is popular.
Yeah.
This is what people want. Please
This
do
is
more
the
of
right
this.
stuff.
Yeah. And like
Yeah.
validate that, you know what, you're on the right track with this.
Exactly.
Let's just try to pay more attention to this stuff. 'Cause
Yeah.
this is what actually matters to us.
And that solutions for policy, right? And like the way that we should govern is by listening to the people, the voters, right? You're elected to a role by your constituents. And if the majority of your constituents are saying one thing and you're doing another, something isn't clicking here. This isn't working. So
Right. So for folks who feel like they don't have any power, would you say like absolutely calling in, signing in? You know, I feel like I hear so many people that are like, well, why should I use my voice? It's not like they're listening. What would you say to that?
I would call bullshit so hard because, like I said, even though like we're seeing an uptake in the number of people who are like signing in opposed, the majority of legislators still don't hear enough from their constituents, right? Like I said, our Constitution was written so that these folks are meant to be your neighbors. And the idea was that you'd be able to like run into them in the grocery store and have a conversation. And so actually email your legislator. Like, that's what they are there for. Talk to them because they're your neighbors. And I feel like that human to human connection is, when we really boil down the issues, I don't think we're that far off, right? But there's like a message, something is getting, mixed signals there.
Yeah.
Your voice actually does matter. And you can't tell me it doesn't, because that bill that just failed because of those 12,000 sign-ins, I'm sorry.
I think certain people with certain opinions have been very loud for a long time. And I think that if those of us who want our legislators to just focus on what should be their priorities, I hope that we can be loud too. And that can make positive change. And so it's motivating to hear that all of this activity around getting people to sign in online, even at such a, an entry level way to participate, actually does make a difference.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important for everybody to like take that and internalize. And so, I even sometimes have been seeing a lot of these bills pop up and I'm like, I gotta remember to like sit down and actually like do them all. But hearing you say how much of an impact it makes is a good motivator actually to do it.
So much. Listen, I get it. It's easy to look away. And when I am struggling with my mental health, that's what I have to do too, right? But when you can, and when you can come to the table, and I know that there's like so many bills and that there are way too many for you to look through, find an organization or someone that trust, like an advocacy organization, for example, that focuses on issues that you really care about, and sign up for their emails. I know it's like kind of annoying to get the email alerts, but that's literally one way to stay involved. There's so much shit. Even I can't keep up. I literally have a color-coded spreadsheet and I still lose things because I'm working on issues that are related to moms, and who knew where multi-issue people who really care about a lot of different things. And so it can be really challenging to keep up. But like, you know, in my head, I go to these folks for this type of issue and such, and I sort of categorize it in my head like that. And I'm trying to think of like, what's the most thing on fire right now, frankly.
It matters.
Yeah. It does matter.
It matters. Yeah.
Yeah. So signing up, you said, to their newsletters, that's the way that you would recommend best staying in the loop for organizations that are doing things that you care about?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of folks have said like, can you do more? Can you do more? And I want to do more. Right. And it's like, in this moment, it's hard for me as a mom who is so used to doing it all, doing the laundry and making dinner at the same time. It's so hard for me to not want to be in my TikTok being like, yes, every single bill. And because trust me, but right now we need to take a deep breath and we need to look in and also see what resources are out there already. And if there are folks in the education space who are leading that space, let's let them lead. And they're going to take that role for us, and we're going to follow their lead, and we're going to use their talking points. And then for the repro folks, we're going to let the repro folks lead. And lucky for us, we have excellent like lanes of folks who are doing amazing advocacy and organizing. And so just look to those folks and look to your communities too, like the groups that you guys are
Yeah.
Hey.
Listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
You mentioned aligning yourself with finding organizations that align with your beliefs. And I think that that is such an easy way for people to tap into something that is already built. I think people have so much enthusiasm right now, which is amazing. But I think sometimes people have the urge to just kind of like try to, or feel like they have to do something all on their own, or feel like they're rolling this rock up the hill by themselves. But really doing some research into groups in your area that you can get involved with that are already doing some of this work, whether it's from a legislative perspective or, you know, we talk about all sorts of other kind of advocacy you can do.
Yeah.
But aligning yourself and reading the emails.
Yeah.
And going to the meetings.
Don't reinvent the wheel, babe.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to take your self-care time and read your book and let me we did the research.
Yeah.
We know what the good ways to say this are. And that's the thing too, right? Is like half of what we do is how you say it. And so lean in with your partners and the people who are like really doing this work, because they know what the words are to make it stick.
Yeah.
They've done like the message testing and they've paid the researchers and all the things. You don't have to do it on your own. And frankly, if you do it on your own, you're going to end up in a doom scroll of all these shitty bills.
I mean, so this podcast really gears towards folks who care deeply about what is going on, that really want to get involved, but like you said, you know, need to maintain their own mental health and all the other things going on in their lives. What is one quick thing that you would recommend people do to get engaged in the legislative process?
First, identify what your self-care is and set a space for yourself where you can have that time. And then come and find an organization who is doing the work that you love. And I'm not saying pick an issue, because we're multi-issue people. Right. If you can, you know, hang on to more than one, we'd love to have you. I'm happy to point folks in the directions of organizations, but literally there's something out there for everyone, and you don't have to be it all. We are already trying to be it all. And something that I heard at the Black Lives Matter Maternal Health Conference today that really stuck with me, and it's a book that I'll have to read, and maybe we can add it to your book club, and maybe I'll join in and read half of it, was Rest is Resistance. Ooh. And it was this idea that in moments of like very challenging times, in these dark times that we're in, actually resting is a moment of resistance, because you're not succumbing to the chaos of it all, and you're not giving in. Because when you go to those places of yourself where you're so overwhelmed and so broken, like you can't move, you can't take action, then you're not okay. And we need you to be okay so that you can be a part of it. So carve out self-care, try not to do it all, and come and find like a trusted allied organization who can help lead you through some of that work. And if it's more than one, great.
Do you have any self-care tips? What's your self-care routine?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm still learning, like as a person who struggles with mental health, I'm still trying to figure out what my self-care is. And sometimes it looks different. I was going through a phase of like puzzles and paint by number for a long time, but also dragon fairy books are also my kind of thing.
Hey.
Love that. I love that.
We're
I'm
on the
into
same
music.
page.
So just like anything that I can do to try to carve out some time. My therapist taught me about a dopamine menu, which if you don't know about it, look it up. I'm not sure if it's TM'd by her. I'll tag her. No,
I saw it on TikTok.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, good.
yeah.
So it's not.
I
Okay.
did that, yeah.
It's not a Lauren thing. Okay.
You won't get in trouble.
Okay, good. Yeah. So
Shout out to Lauren, though.
Shout out to Lauren. I know I owe you a copay. But but it's like, you know, picking like small, medium, big things that like help you get out of dysregulation and into the zone of like actually taking care of yourself. And so literally write things down so that when you are out of touch and like really having a hard time, go and point to those things.
I love that. It's like we have to treat ourselves almost like children. The way I think about it when I'm like really dysregulated is like I need to treat myself like a child.
Oh,
It's
absolutely. Parent yourself.
Yeah, you have to because you're no good if you're totally fried and just running around like your hair's on fire.
Yeah, no one else is going to do it for you.
Yeah,
There's no mom coming to save the day.
maybe.
Yeah. I'll come save you.
Yeah.
Come save me. How about that?
Yeah, that's why
Community
groups
of
are
moms.
important.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
are the moms coming to
We're
save
the
the
moms.
day. That's terrifying.
That's what I was going to say earlier when I lost my train of thought is like, it's easy to look away, but like, if not us, who? This is our moment. And I don't know if either of you have had this moment recently, but like, we're the adults in the room. It's so scary, but this is welcome to your adulthood. And our adulthood looks different, right? And so we're doing podcasts and on TikTok organizing, and the people who are at the State House aren't with us. And so let's take over because it's time.
They're hearing our voices now.
Yeah, they don't have a choice.
Thank you so much for joining us
you for
today.
having
You
me.
are going to be forced to come back.
Oh, please have
yeah.
me. Yes.
This was amazing.
Thank
And
you.
like was so helpful. I could keep you for like an hour and a half just asking you
can.
about like all of these things.
You can.
It's okay. Our batteries will die. So we unfortunately will have to edit
you.
that. Keep it shorter. But no, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would love to have you back, and we will put all sorts of information in the show notes. Follow. What's your TikTok handle?
Ruth Bader Winsberg _
We'll put that in the show notes too.
That'll be in the show notes too. Yeah, because you are doing. She's putting out amazing information on TikTok about what bills you need to follow in New Hampshire. And, you know, try to find, if you're not based in New Hampshire, do a little TikTok search. Try to find some creators that are in your state that are doing the kind of work that you are. I think what you're doing online is really important.
Thank
and
you
it's
for
helping
amplifying
people.
it. Thank you for doing this work. This community organizing is the stuff that is going to take us to absolute change. So thank you.
Go team.
Go team.
Woo!
Moms.